suggesting that I killed my wife. You're saying that I crushed her skull and that I shot her? How dare you? When I came home, there was a man in my house. I fought with this man. He had a mechanical arm. You find this man. You find this man.
Welcome, everyone, back to another edition of Let's Take 5, the podcast where we look at one of the greats of cinema and discuss their excellence and range. My name is Eric Martindale.
My name is Austin Luger.
And today we are continuing our Harrison Ford 5. The previous films we covered were Star Wars and Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Then we're going to cover The Fugitive and Blade Runner 2049 in the subsequent weeks. But today we are talking about the movie Witness. Austin, what's the movie Witness about?
Witness is the 1985 Peter Weir film, which stars Harrison Ford as John Book. It's his most normal performance with still an awesome name.
Yeah, awesome.
It's too awesome. He is a police officer in Philadelphia. There is a murder that happened, and it was witnessed by a young Amish boy when he and his mother are traveling to the area they're going to be. I don't know, the farm, village,
somewhere in Pennsylvania.
Harrison Ford kind of halts their travels so they can get information from the kid exactly, who was it. That's it. Who was it? And it turns out, after looking through a number of suspects, it was the police chief, played by Danny Glover. Nope.
It wasn't the police chief. It was a high decorated officer.
Right. He was major, lots of medals.
Because the chief is another character who's in cahoots with him.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So John Book recognizes that this is a dangerous situation. We have to get this kid to safety. Ultimately, John Book gets shot and ends up being in the Amish community, first to kind of get him healed from his gunshot wound, and then just to kind of be as a bit of a protector for the kid as they kind of stop this corrupt cop. And he becomes embedded in the community.
Yeah, so there's a separate portion of the film going on, which is the police looking for John Book to locate him, to silence them, kill him, kill the kid, or, what have you. And that's a small portion of the film, and then the other big portion of the film is just like John Book ingratiating himself into this new lifestyle and ultimately falling in love with the kid's mother, who's Amish. So he's not Amish, she is. This is obviously a problem. This is going to be an issue. And that was kind of jarring for me, not that love story, but in a weird way, that love story is kind of like a well-rounded way of talking about the movie at large, which is two completely separate settings that influence so much of the picture. Like, you have half of this, like, not even half, like 20% of this film is this very, very hard rated R cop drama, and then another 80, which is like dark and like
it looks like Dirty Harry.
It looks like
late 70s,
really ugly, depressing cityscope, and then you have this really bright and colorful Amish countryside that's very open, like the space is really wide, and it's almost like two different movies in one, which, I mean, that could be made an argument for its strength of the film.
Yeah.
But to me, it's like almost hitting the reset button, and it was a little jarring for me. Ultimately, though, I thought that Harrison Ford was great. I thought the kid, it was really hard to get a good child actor, so that's big. And Kelly McGillis, who plays Rachel, she's really good too, and as this love story starts to blossom, you actually get a really good handle on how good Harrison Ford is at actually doing this type of thing, right? He works in Empire Strikes Back with Carrie Fisher. It works with Karen Allen in Raiders of the Lost Ark. And it works here in a more grander and nuanced way because so much of the film is driven by the love story in this, which isn't the case in those previous two films, which are mostly pop. But, like, if the love story doesn't work here and the characters don't have chemistry, the actors don't have chemistry, you don't really have a movie here.
And that's what's so interesting about Harrison Ford in this movie, because, obviously the last two films we covered, big genre, bigger than reality concepts. Mm-hmm. The film that also came out before this was Blade Runner. Same kind of thing. Different kind of performance from him, but still, it's a world with flying cars and secret robots.
Sure.
This, immediately, once it's in the station, he's playing it so naturally. Like, he just seems like he's in an episode of Hill Street Blues. He's not the guest star of Hill Street Blues. He's just so organic. It's kind of even weird to see him wear just normal clothes and talk to people in a very normal way.
That's the good point.
Yeah, and that to me really kind of showed a lot of range that we don't get to see a lot from Harrison Ford, because he's always bigger than life, and this is where he was rather small. And I really thought the way he talked with the kid was very impressive at the beginning, because he's someone who's dedicated to his job, but he's not automatically going for the asshole kind of thing. In fact, when he's being an asshole, he doesn't even know he's doing it, as opposed to their characters, because like the mom says, we actually do want to go home now. He's like, oh, but you know that your son witnessed a murder that we have to solve.
Right.
Like that kind of thing, like, I didn't mean to, but you understand that this is the only witness we have to the murder.
So it avoids, like, genre tropes in that way.
Sure.
Because he's not tough guy cop, and she's not damsel in distress. Literally, she has a different life, a completely different life. He has a different life, and you really get a really strong sense that these worlds have naturally intersected without dumbing it down to making the audience feel stupid.
And that's what I thought was impressive, jumping ahead a little bit, was that there was no, like, obvious, like, producer's note moment where it was like, have him ask about the history of being Amish. And like then someone goes like, oh, this is it, and these stars mean this, and like then sweeping music happens. No, it all happens very organically, and you kind of see through the character the values that do connect with him about this community. And what really worked visually is that it's getting jobs done, right? The thing he starts to do there to kind of contribute is to help build stuff. And there's a task to complete the task, much like he is for a cop. And there's something about him being so good at both these things, because I just love that moment when the kid realizes it's Danny Glover. He's gone through all these suspects. You're kind of worried about the film because you're like, I don't think this kid has seen a black person before. What kind of story we got to go down? Like, is he going to misidentify the guy?
Yeah.
And it's not like that. When he's in the police station, he just happens to see the photograph with Danny Glover on it, and it points him out and does like a really kind of dramatic like point. Dramatic in a good way. I really enjoyed the moment. And Harrison Ford recognizes what he's doing, recognizes that, first off, he believes the kid immediately. Huge thing, because it would be a really worse movie if he was like doubts the kid, makes him like overdo it kind of thing, because it just stalls the plot of the movie.
I agree, absolutely.
He buys it and then recognizes immediately that he's in danger because he's literally in, I guess, a tank of sharks, basically, if you don't know who to trust.
And in doing that, it ends up avoiding one of my least favorite things about tropes, and these are film tropes, not just genre tropes, that involve children, is that the children are never believed initially. The children are stupid.
Yes.
And children don't know what they saw. And I hate that. I can't stand how much media tries to dumb things down for they're just children. And that have really bothered me, because children are a lot smarter than people give them credit for. At least film typically does. And it's not like, well, I'm not interested in that story either. I just don't think it's... The story here is the love story, which we get to, and that keeps us from that. That's an obstacle in the way that we don't need. And it would have been so easy to do something like that. Now, you could say, on the other hand, is you could get into tropes about Amish people and stuff like that.
Oh, right. The movie actually has very little belittling about anyone like that.
Right. And then that's a different... See, that turns into a different thing altogether, because so many people, I think... and I'm not Amish, so I can't speak to how offensive this film might be if there are inaccuracies there, which I know there are, because I've read some of them. And also being from Indiana. But you can't... To me, that's difference. An inaccuracy about a group of people, whether, like, Amadeus isn't real either. That story's made up.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, it uses Mozart, but, like, it's not a trope to be an inaccuracy, does that make sense?
Sure.
And it's not making fun of. If anything, this movie endears to that lifestyle, right? Because all the open space, people actually accomplishing things as a unit, getting things done, and this real sense of community, which John Book doesn't have inside his own police department. If he's at a point where he can say, wow, this is all falling apart, and immediately believe a kid who points out one of the top cops as being a murderer, then that probably says something about that society, right? And then you could say, well, that's not true about all police departments. You know what I mean? It's a movie.
Right.
It's a movie.
Well, it's interesting because also this is so Peter Weir, who will go on to make a number of rather beloved movies like The Truman Show and Master and Commander: The Far Side of the World. But this was his first American movie. You hate Master and Commander?
I do.
Oh.
So dull.
Man, I was going to do my boat top 5 next. I was going to take that one.
But
off.
I like The Truman Show.
But at this point, he had been a very successful Australian director. He made The Last Wave. I think he made Gallipoli, right? With Mel Gibson. Good movie. War movie. So this is his first time making an American movie, and it's all about being an outsider and being a curious and embracing outsider from the eyes of John Book. Because, like, again, all these scenes, like, it doesn't overplay how refreshing it is to have wider shots and to have the color green be on screen.
Especially in a movie that involves a murder of a police officer, something that, like... Or not, well, yeah, it was a police officer, but witnessed by a child. Like, this is so... Like, the way that film starts is, like, are we going to go down another road, like, 80s, like...
Serpico, we gotta...
Oh, my God, or I don't even want to do this. Or what was the Jodie Foster movie we did?
The Accused.
The Accused, yeah. Like, you get to that... I wanted to call that movie... Witness. But it's like The Accused, like, it ends up, like, these worlds end up being so, like... And I hate to just say 80s and that being like a big drape to throw over the whole thing.
Well,
but
70s and 80s.
70s and 80s. It has just this sort of a vibe of like...
Taxi Driver, Dog Day Afternoon.
Yeah, you just can't... And it's just so brooding and just gross.
Yeah.
Like, and so I'm just not interested in living there anymore.
Which is... the premise of this movie.
Exactly. Well, no, it's true.
Yeah.
It's true. So it kind of opens my eyes to that. It's like, this movie, this type of film can be a love story. That's new. Because the first thing, because this movie is nominated for a ton of Academy Awards.
Right. I mean, it's up for... What are we up?
It's up for screenplay, editing, picture, actor, director, cinematography, and original score.
It got whooped by Out of Africa.
Yeah, Out of Africa came out looking pretty good here, and but it did win screenplay and editing. Which is interesting, because typically editing will win Best Picture usually.
It used to be a thing.
Yeah, it used to be a thing, but it wasn't this year either.
No.
So, but anyway, regardless, it just says, so why do you think, Austin, this movie in this time period was seen as such a great film? Because if this came out today, I don't know if the audience reacts this way.
I don't know. I mean, it's such a quiet movie.
It's very quiet.
We've kind of missed the time when adult dramas were made like this. That you can make this... What you have to imagine, like $20-30 million movie.
Yeah, it wasn't and half of that probably went to Harrison Ford.
Yeah, and I think one thing was it was people seeing Harrison Ford as a real actor. My air quotes did not come up on the audio there, but it is.
Yeah, I was going to say he's using quotes right now.
He's nailed it.
Yeah,
So good at podcasting. But you have it's seeing him in a really good performance, which is just an extension of things he did before. Like, he has natural chemistry with Carrie Fisher and Karen Allen. He's able to play men of authority, as we've seen in the other things. This happened to just be in a non-genre film, or a genre that the Academy likes. And
it played, especially like in that time period, because it almost used my expectations against me.
Sure.
Like, you go into the film, you expect something, you get something totally different. Like, I would think the Amish family would live in the city. I would think for the duration of this film, rather than him going to live with the Amish.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Like that's what makes it different. Like, that's what makes it kind of interesting, is taking him out of water rather than putting them in the water.
Right.
Because I think if it does that, it's almost more offensive in a way. If it's all towards Amish people, it's like, okay, let's look at them under the microscope. Let's laugh at them, in public.
It's funny.
What I mean?
When Hollywood's done that for other type of movies, notably
Jungle to Jungle,
classic. Tim Allen 5 we're going to do. Or Martin Short 5. We don't know. We don't pin it down.
We don't want to know.
We don't know. But like Doc Hollywood, Michael J. Fox is a jerk of a plastic surgeon, goes to a small town, realizes that being a doctor is more about helping people than plastic surgery, I guess. Weirdly, the exact same premise for the Disney film Cars. He's a hotshot race car, goes to small town, also breaks something, learns that being a car is more about driving. I don't know, whatever. Cars are confusing. But it's that idea of both these films are, you are a flawed person, you go to this area, and now you're a better person.
Right.
John Book doesn't start off as like a flawed, asshole, like racist cop.
Yeah.
But he's the hero immediately.
Yeah, we don't have time for that either.
No, and it would be a dumb moment. I mean, you kind of like quietly see. I just love how much is understated in this film. Like, we'll talk more about the romance coming up, but I love when he is first like wearing Amish garb, that he looks uncomfortable, but not in a way that's like super obvious. Him like pulling his collar or like trying to adjust his hat too many times, which is so weird because he's wearing like artificial costumes in Star Wars and Indiana Jones, but those are natural to him.
Yeah.
This is way more normal than wearing snow blaster gear on Hoth. But,
Yeah.
But you kind of see him like sitting just a little bit different. He's like he's worried he's going to be a fraud as he's wearing the nice hat.
And I think that probably is what lended itself to getting him his first Oscar nomination. His first and only Oscar nomination was because it's just so. I mean, it less so now because there have been a few. You get the Sabrina remake or whatever. You have a few other films where they're in the canon there where he is doing something different, or he's just not as hot of an item as he used to be then. But it's weird to. Take a look and examine. I'm trying to think like another actor, if they did that today, like what that would be like a Daniel Craig or something, or even not really him because he's kind of done it, but it's...
Well, but it's that kind of thing, like...
Just an icon.
To see him play
so
a normal person.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think he tried to do throughout the 90s to make success. Because, I mean, we'll talk about it next week, but The Fugitive is almost both of those things, where it's like, oh, he's just a normal doctor. Then another guy says, he's smarter than everyone, even me. Like... Okay, so he's super doctor.
Well, then we're moving from 80s tropes to 90s tropes.
Right. But, like, so you have, like, the Sabrina remake where he's just like a normal guy.
Yeah.
What Lies Beneath, pretty much a normal guy.
Yeah.
But then he is the most badass president of all time in Air Force One.
Yes, he is.
So it's curious, like, Harrison Ford just weirdly is more comfortable as... He kind of always feels like John McClane's dad.
Yeah, I get what
in
you're
a way.
saying.
Like, he always moves a little bit slower, but it doesn't make him less badass.
Well, they both were starred in humongous action movies when they both came out, and now they both have created totally iconic characters that it's hard to imagine anyone else ever playing them.
Sure.
I know we have Solo coming out, but you have Han Solo.
Yeah.
And you have Indiana Jones. You have those two films. And then for Die Hard, you have John McClane. And I know no one gave a shit about the fifth Die Hard movie, but if someone else was playing
recently
John
watched
McClane...
it.
Really?
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Well, if it were not Bruce Willis, though, like, really no one would give a shit,
true.
right? You know what I mean? So it's just one of those things.
Chris Pratt would have to shave his head to do it.
That's true.
Chris Pratt can play every franchise character.
Yeah, I was going to say, wasn't he supposed to take over Indiana Jones or Han Solo?
He's going to play all of them.
Yeah, well, anyway, so let's talk about the love story in this. What do you think, in general?
It's great, because it's a romance story that it doesn't exactly go with the will they, won't they. It's more of like, will this even happen at all? Will there be a romance?
Because there's bigger... Yes. Like, I didn't even know that was coming until, like, halfway through the film. It's like, oh, this is
so understated.
Yeah, it is. Which works perfectly with the characters.
Right.
And
so you get to that.
Their ways of life and what they bring to the table. And I'm not just referring to the Amish, I'm referring to him, too.
Yeah, it's these two people, the way they communicate with each other, where there's respect, a little bit with impatience as well, because, like, you both have your set goals, and they overlap mostly. But then you get to that barn sequence and go, oh, wait, was this the sexiest film of all time? Did I not notice?
Yeah, the barn sequence is amazing.
Yeah, because it is just such incredible chemistry. Yeah. Very rarely do you get just this natural burst of Harrison Ford charisma. In fact, I don't think he's done this in decades. Just like, he's going to be charming, and that's the entire role of this scene. And if this scene doesn't work, it's because your charisma wasn't there. Like, it has to work based off this. And the way that it's lit, I mean, it's so great use of candles and space as they kind of start off closer and get a little bit start off far apart, get a little bit closer. And
it's also wild. Yeah, I mean, you're right. They're in the barn. What's lighting the barn is the lanterns, and Sam Cooke is on the radio.
Yeah.
So, nailed it. already.
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, I mean, like, with those things. And they're dancing to Sam Cooke, which, I mean, that's what you want. Like, that's perfect. Like,
yeah.
And I like that choice for her character because... Like she doesn't listen to the radio. She's not heard this song before. But that the reaction that she might have to music like that is the reaction people had to Sam Cooke when he was first on the radio.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of neat, like how that sort of works because it's like, oh, what's this type of music, you know, and it works. It's a really really charming scene, and they don't sleep together right away. You know, they don't...
Yeah.
That's not a thing. And, like, you're expecting that to come. And then the opportunity where it's like, oh, my God, where it finally says, are they or aren't they, as far as, like, sleeping together, it never comes off as, like, it's exploiting any of the characters.
It's not sleazy
No,
at
it's
all.
not.
Yeah.
Because she's topless. She's standing in the doorway. She turns to him, and it's like, that's the moment. And then they both realize they can't do this, right? Like,
yeah.
It's really... Yeah, it's really good. The more I talk about it, I like it more. I mean, my initial dose of this film was it was a little dull, but that's not really the case. It's really, honestly, when you think about it, the dull stuff of it is more the cop stuff because the ending is Taxi Driver ending.
Right, I've honestly forgotten most of the ending.
Yeah, it's like you were talking about all this, about this romance, but the cops do find him, and there's a 15-minute shootout at the end of the film. Which you're like, again, you forget. That's what I'm saying. It's jarring when it happens because it's like, whoa.
I remember every instance of lemonade in this movie because, like, it's always fun when a director really gets to, like, make you feel the heat to the cold.
Yeah.
And these people, like, working on building stuff, that lemonade seems like the greatest liquid of all time.
And really, this is the greatest performance of all time by Viggo Mortensen.
Is he in this?
Yeah, he plays background Amish guy.
Oh, my God.
He's in like 6 or 7 different scenes. He's just in the background hanging out with the blonde-haired guy.
This is an extension of History of Violence, right? This is him hiding.
Yeah, I think so. It's just so weird. I remember I called Megan here.
I missed that.
Is that Viggo Mortensen? And she goes, yeah, it is. It's like Viggo Mortensen when he's like 25.
Well, I forgot Dan Glover was in this. I knew the bad guy was like a higher person. So when like the kid witnesses Danny Glover, I'm like, uh-oh.
It's got to be him.
God, it's Danny Glover.
But Danny Glover pops up. Well, and I guess this was before Lethal Weapon, the first one.
Yeah, it is. A couple years.
This was before he had
really blown up.
Really blew up.
And it was so weird because even though like I really love Lethal Weapon, the film I've seen the most of his because I watched it 1,000 times.
Predator 2.
No, never even seen Predator 2.
I've seen it. Angels in the Outfield.
Angels in the Outfield, which is him with a kid exactly Luke Haas's age, except he's not trying to kill him. In fact, he's trying to help win the pennant.
The Angels win the pennant.
They won the pennant.
The Angels win the pennant.
The movie has Tony Danza in it.
Like, yeah, he's the pitcher.
And McConaughey.
Cancer and like, it has a lot. Dude, Angels in the Outfield has like, just look around, there are stars.
Yeah.
It's really weird.
I mean, Joseph Gordon-Levitt's the kid.
Joseph Gordon-Levitt's the kid, that's right. And the mother, the foster mother, is the pigeon lady from Home Alone 2. So.
Is she?
Mm-hmm. They just keep popping up everywhere.
That's
true.
true.
There's another big one we're missing. It's like Space Jam.
But Space Jam, like, those were cameos, though.
I know. They were already famous, you're right.
It's
actually not like Space Jam.
It's not like at all. Also, it's good.
Also, it's good. That's true, too.
Do we have any kind of final thoughts on this? I feel like I've watched you turn around this film during the...
Yeah, I mean, I did kind of turn around on it a little bit. I mean, I did not like it when I first saw it. I just found it to be a little dull. But a lot of that was just saying is another way of saying it just wasn't all my cup of tea. Mm-hmm. Like, objectively speaking, the film's pretty damn good. I'm not a humongous fan of films made in this decade. Like, it's a weird decade. A lot of movies get a lot of praise that aren't very good. I mean, and I hate that it's just like just a grand blanket statement to say, oh, it was the 80s, but there's still a lot of 80s in this film. And when they're outside and they're with the Amish, even somehow they manage to work in an 80s like score. Like,
yeah, it's an 80s score.
It's like it's just there to remind you. And again, like we talked about The Accused, which got brought up there because it's the same type of world, at least in the very beginning. Mm-hmm. And it's like it was a different era where people thought different things were good.
Sure.
And it's like grand platitudes that are always presented, like rape is bad. It's like, I know.
Because they're the first film to like we're going to talk about rape for the first time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And we're gonna and a lot of times it would come off. The villains always come off as really goofy and cheesy to me in these films usually, and a lot of times the heroes. The guy's name in this film is John Book.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's like
so unnecessary.
It's the most cliche detective thing ever. Like it's one of those things you just know it when you look at it. John Book. That's a made up name. Yeah. Like that is not a real name. But I had to flush that mentality from my system. And right. I mean, it is really good. I mean, one editing and screenplay.
Yeah.
Those aren't throwaway awards. Those are serious things. And I mean, it would have been in play. And I mean, if Out of Africa doesn't exist, this movie,
which it barely does.
Well, yeah, which apparently does. It's funny. This film probably would have won Best Picture. I mean, you look at what it's director, cinematography, picture, original score, art direction, and it won screenplay and editing. So, it's kind of weird to think about what its legacy may have been. And maybe, but, it's great. It's like no one goes to Harrison Ford, interview and ask him about Witness. I'd be. Would he light up? Yeah, I want to know. I want someone to ask that question. Because it is cool. I'm glad we covered it.
Yeah. So, if you want to hear us talk more about Harrison Ford, we'll be back next week with our review of The Fugitive. Until then, leave us a comment about what you thought of Witness over at theartofmore.com. Also, you can follow us on Twitter at the Immortals Pod. You can email us at letstake5 at theartofmore.com. While you're there, check out some other cool podcasts, including The Immortals. Yesterday's episode, we talked about Ben-Hur and Blackadder. It was a really cool episode. Ad Absurdum is working on its next episode, and I'm not going to hint about that, because someone did that. They didn't do that one.
Oh.
So, nope, because they realized they had no legal arguments about Groundhog's Day. So they enjoyed rewatching it. That's about it.
Okay.
But cool one's coming soon. Where else can we find you, Eric?
You can find me at Constant Diversion. That's my YouTube channel, and check me out on there.
Cool. All right. We'll catch you all next week. My name's Austin Ligger.
My name's Eric Martindale.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Don't know much about geography. Don't know much trigonometry. Don't know much about algebra. Don't know what a slide rule is for. But I do know what and what is two. And if this one
could be with you, what a wonderful world this would be.